Welcome to episode 650 of the Entertainment 2.0 podcast, brought to you by the digitalmediazone.com. I'm Josh Pollard.
And I'm Richard Gunther, and this is the show that puts you in control of your favorite movies, music, shows, and games. And hey, happy random milestone, Josh.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, is 650 a real milestone? Like, I guess it kind of is. But it also, like, when you get to 650, it makes me think of 666. And, like, are we going to do something spooky for episode 666?
Ooh. I guess it depends how close it falls to Halloween.
Right. We might have to figure
Align
that
out.
Right. Yeah, that seems required. Okay. Well, if you have ideas for what we should do for episode 666, you could email them to us at entertainment20@thedigitalmediazone.com, or any other random thoughts that you have about our show or the news that we're talking about on this week's episode. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, you can leave comments right here on the stream. Of course, hit that like and subscribe button so that you always get notified of our newest YouTube videos. And if you're not watching on YouTube, well, why not? Like, go in and check it out, and definitely hit the subscribe button. You would help us out a lot if you did that. So check out that video feed there and leave us
And I'm always
comments.
going to put that plug in that if you do that, you get to see just specific highlights if you want to. You can just hear a specific story if that's the thing that's most interesting to you.
Yep, I have been trying to do that for some of the bigger stories, splicing them up into smaller segments. So cool. Well, since we don't have any listener feedback other than just, man, those Sonos videos that we've put up on YouTube, those might end up being some of our top commented stories because
Yeah.
you people are so mad about the Sonos app, especially, and a little bit on the headphones, but definitely the app. Everybody's so mad.
Yep. Blame anyone for that.
Right. So let's start with our biggest video news of the week.
Yeah, and that is the news around updates to tvOS, or Apple TV devices, as it were. Interesting that at WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference that Apple holds each year, this year they talked about upgrades to each of the different OSs they had. But when it came to tvOS, they just referred to home and audio or something along those lines. It was very strange the way they just kind of lumped all this home stuff together. And I thought, oh, we're going to get some smart home. No, it was basically about entertainment in the home, which is great because that's what we talk about. So on tvOS 18, which is the upcoming upgrade that'll be out sometime this fall, you'll see a couple things that I think are just nice improvements. They're not doing anything major, but some nice needed improvements. I think the one that's getting the most attention from everybody is their version of Amazon Prime's X-Ray. So if you have Amazon Prime Video, you're used to this feature called X-Ray, where when you pause, you see information about the actors in the scene at the moment. And that's a really convenient and interesting way of getting information without having to pull out your second screen, open IMDb, also owned by Amazon, by the way, and find out who this actor is. Why do I know this actor? So they're adding that, and they're also going to be adding information about music that might be playing in the scene at the time. So, for example, you might be watching something and there's a song and you're like, oh, what is that? If you press I think it's going to be down arrow on the remote, then it's going to bring up what they're calling the insight screen with information about the actors and information about the song that's playing. And you can add that song to a playlist in Apple Music if you're an Apple Music subscriber. So really cool integration there.
That is really cool. Like I'm a fan of Amazon Prime Video's X-ray functionality. I think it is useful. This addition of the music stuff, and then to take it another level to allow you to build a playlist out of it and stuff, that's pretty cool integration.
Yeah, smart. It's Apple doing what Apple does. They take something that's been out there for a while, isn't new and original, and add something to make it just a little bit better for some people. So
and pretend like they invented all of it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. They're also adding some AI improvements to the dialogue enhancement capability. So if you're watching something and you're having trouble listening to the dialogue, I almost always enable enhanced dialogue on anything that I'm watching, particularly in movies, because it's so challenging to hear movies over other or hear dialogue in many movies over other stuff that's going on. And there's been just a whole thing about directors just not caring whether you can hear it or not. They have this style that they're going after. And if they're going to muddle their way through everything, you're just going to have to put captions on or something. Well, with AI, they're enhancing the dialogue. And speaking of captions, they're also going to make it easier to get to captions. So you could do something like ask Siri to, sorry, it might have just triggered someone. Ask her to play what just happened by saying, what did he say? Or what did she say? And it rewinds and will play the thing again with captions. Well, now, if you rewind a few seconds, it's automatically going to turn the captions on for you. So no matter how you end up going about this, you'll be able to get that. You'll be able to catch what it was that someone was saying. Additionally, if you mute, automatically it's going to put the captions on. So nice capability. That's pretty common and as an option in a lot of televisions. So it's nice that they're adding this to their service as well.
Muting and turning on captions is cool.
Yeah.
Turning on captions just because I rewound, that seems like it could get annoying. Like there are
just
other
a couple
to
seconds.
Rewind. And then it turns it back off?
I believe so, but I have not had a chance to test it, and they didn't really go into that much detail about it.
Okay. Well, we'll see once they actually release it.
Yeah. Yeah. Two other things that are kind of interesting, not that big a deal for most people, but if you have a 21:9 projector, and if you do, by the way, congratulations on your life. But if you have a 21:9 projector, you didn't have native support for that with Apple TV. So that meant that you had to use a lower aspect ratio, more traditional, like 16:9, which is what many movies and TV shows are shot in. But more and more stuff is getting, even then, letterboxed to be able to show it in the 21:9 format. So if you have one of those projectors now, Apple TV will natively support it. And they're adding some new screensavers. Yay, not that terribly exciting. But one of the things I think is kind of cool is that the screensaver is going to have an option where you can actually select cool, kind of subtle background scenes from Apple TV shows and have that be your screensaver. So, for example, they showed like a flyover of a ship that I think was in Foundation or something like that. So, some a kind of a cool way of adding to the rotation of stuff that you see when you're in screensaver mode.
Yeah, that does sound cool. Is it just shows that they're trying to promote, or is it shows that you watch? Do you get to pick? Did they get into those details?
Yeah, you can choose which shows you want to have the screensaver from. It's all Apple TV plus series or movies, but I imagine they're going to be using stuff in or adding stuff to that yes, they want to promote. So,
right.
But they're not ads or anything. They're just subtle screensaver, like slow motion kind of scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Nothing, like I said, nothing major. Some users may end up seeing some changes to navigation in some of the apps. We've talked about the I guess I'd call it like a bullet at the top of, or a pill at the top of the Apple TV app that changes to a sidebar. That pill is actually going to expand and become a top menu that looks a whole lot like the original navigation on the original Apple TV. And that's going to be the primary navigation. And then if you want to expand it, then you'll have the ability to get the larger menu on the side. it seems like that's something they're testing, and they're not necessarily going to be rolling that out to everybody right away. I think they want to see how well that works on the TV experience. Frankly, I think it will work fine because we've had top navigation on Apple TV for like almost ever.
Yeah, sounds like it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Cool. And you said all of this is sometime this fall.
All of this is sometime this fall, although betas are available now. If you're in the developer program, you can download and potentially make your family very unhappy if you brick your Apple TV device with a beta, but it is available to test now if that's something that you're interested in.
Which I'm guessing you're not going to do.
No. I'm not. No, I'll put betas on my personal devices, not on something that is for the household. No.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, with that, let's jump into some audio news and talk a little bit about my streaming music service of choice, and that is, of course, Spotify. They are announcing some new features coming soon, although we reported on last week's episode that they're increasing the cost of Spotify by $1, $2, or $3 a month based on your plan. These features, not enough to make me excited about that price increase. They're not that great, but they're cool. So it's basically a new set of features that they're enveloping under the term My Spotify. So, one of the really cool things about being a Spotify user is around the end of the year, you get Spotify Wrapped, where they give you a really cool presentation of all of the music that you've been listening to the most over the year. It always blows up on social media. People love sharing this with their friends. But wouldn't it be nice to know more about your listening habits throughout the year and maybe be able to act on them a little bit more than just having a playlist at the end of the year of all of the songs that you listen to the most? So that's what some of these features are. When you open the app, you will get new personalized banners that, in their example screenshots, there was one that said, last month, you listened to Doja Cat 52 times, so you'll like this mix. And it's a mix of all of Doja Cat's songs, I guess. Another example in the set of screenshots provided by Spotify did something similar where you listen to this artist's X number of times. So you'll enjoy this DJ session, which the Spotify DJ is a feature that's been around for a little while now, where it gives you an AI-based DJ, and I'm going to put AI in quotes for Richard's sake, where it's a machine-generated text DJ that plays songs that you might like. And in this case, it would be a DJ giving you music similar to that particular artist. There'll also be other banners taking you to other specialized playlists and things like that you make. And then, the other fun thing about this is some of that data that you're getting, like, oh, I really listened to that artist 52 times last month. Like, I knew it was a lot, but 52, that seems like it. Like, that's a ton. And so, it is hyper personalized, which should make it a whole lot more fun and should hopefully make it less annoying. Like, there's a lot of times when I open up Spotify on my phone and it pops up essentially a banner ad for some new art, like some new album. And a lot of times, like, it's sponsored content because it's like an artist that I am not going to listen to. So I'm just like immediately dismissing these things. These should be a lot more interesting to users. So I'm excited to see these when they start rolling out, which is going to be over the next few weeks, as long as you're in the US, Canada, the UK, Ireland, Australia, or New Zealand, and then maybe other markets eventually later on after that.
Yeah, I think these are all really good features, and I love the data because typically that's the kind of thing that you don't get until the year end, right? The year-end things that each of the services does. So I think that's really useful. I still contend that all of these services need I'm not interested in that way of handling those recommendations, kind of like you can in YouTube, where you say, no, I don't want to see this. And then you get to say why. And I think something like that would be useful in Spotify. As far as I know, it still doesn't have that kind of feature.
Well, and definitely not to the extent that I might want it. Like there are a certain, like I listen to so many different types of music, but one of them is EDM. And so like there are DJs that I like, but then some of these DJs will also do a lot of remixes and stuff of other artists. And if they're remixing some rap song that I don't want to listen to, like I don't want to listen to that. So it would be nice to be able to say, I don't want to listen to songs that include this particular artist, but I still want the DJ or whatever, So,
yep. Hey, I know we don't really have it in our lineup, and I think the news about it is still speculative, but I did hear that Bloomberg is reporting that the hi-fi stuff could be coming fairly soon and is going to require another paid tier potentially.
Yeah, I thought about including it, but we don't often report on rumors, although it's Bloomberg, so it's probably a pretty decent source. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is actually me not wanting to report on it in hopes that they're wrong about it being a $5 increase in the subscription cost. And then I wonder, like, how much more is it going to cost for a family plan? And because I would also be the only one on my family plan who would care about something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pay like $20 extra a month for everybody in the family to have it.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, we'll be watching for the official news.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's move on to another obsession of mine, and that is Bluetooth headphones, especially when they have Bluetooth LE audio. And these are interesting. These are really interesting. So Jabra has updated. This is kind of a weird way of doing things. Like normally every year they release a new model of their Jabra Elites and their Elite Active series. Instead, this is just it's a second generation of last year's Elite 10 and Elite 8 Active. I don't know why they went this route. Maybe because it hasn't quite been a year since the last ones were released, but they were in like August. So I think it's close enough. We could have just bumped the number and made this less confusing. Regardless, the name isn't the cool part. It's the functionality that I think is pretty cool in these. So the standout feature is the new case. The case, they are calling a Bluetooth LE audio smart case. And the way that it works is it comes with a special cable. The case normally charges with USB-C. And so it comes with a cable that has USB-C on one side and a 3.5 millimeter audio jack on the other end. And you can then plug this cable into the headphone case and a source, a 3.5 millimeter audio source, which could be the entertainment system on the airplane that you're riding in, the treadmill or whatever the sound system is at the gym where you're working out. And then the audio will be routed through that headphone cable into the case. And then the case uses Bluetooth LE audio to beam the music to your headphones with low latency.
Brilliant.
It is such a cool idea.
Yeah. It's funny. I was on a flight just 2 days ago, and I was just thinking, hey, it would have been cool to watch something on the screen, but I didn't have headphones with an actual connection.
Right. Who does?
So yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, this is such a great use case. So that alone, I think to me would have warranted a second gen update or a new model series. But that's not it. They have also been working on the software algorithms that power things like the active noise cancellation. They say that the new version will block up to twice as much noise as the previous model and has better algorithms for really detecting what type of music or what type of noise it is, whether it's an airplane or a really loud gym that you're working out in, and does a better job of drowning that out. They've also improved the hear-through technology. I can't remember for the life of me what AirPods call this, where it will do ANC but allow you to hear, like, amplify the noises around you. So, like, if somebody starts talking to you, what do AirPods call that?
I have no idea.
You don't remember either? Okay.
All I know is that I hold it till it clicks and then it turns it on. So
okay. Do you use it? Does it work well on AirPods?
Oh, I use it all the time. Absolutely. Yeah, because when I'm walking the dogs, I want to be able to hear traffic and stuff around me. So I find that very useful.
I have it on my older Jabras. I can't remember what model number they are. If I open up my Bluetooth settings, it will tell me. These are Jabra Elite 75Ts. So these are a couple years old. I don't like the sound. I tried it while running. Now I only ever run with one in, and I do not have the tips so that they block out everything. So, like, I don't get a great ANC experience with these anyway, because I don't typically want it. But I decided to try it one day, did this hear-through thing while I was running, and it was bad. Like, I'm trying to listen to a podcast while running, and a large truck went driving down the road next to me, and it was so incredibly loud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, Apple does a much better job than that. In fact, I think I had talked about how a couple months ago, I had been fitted with some hearing assistance devices, some hearing aids. I ultimately ended up returning them and not sticking with them. One of the reasons was because in big crowds, there was just noise, just awful noise, and I couldn't hear people talking at all, despite it supposedly being able to do that.
Right.
Instead, what I ended up doing at a lot of stuff when I was at South by was just putting my AirPods in and having them on the mode that lets stuff through, and it does a good enough job of picking up the stuff that you want to hear.
Wow.
That I was actually able to converse better with those in than with the hearing aids.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. But I'm disappointed about the hearing aids for you. That sucks. So yeah, but the hear through functionality in these new Jabra earbuds is supposed to be better, especially tuned algorithms around really decreasing wind noise and things like that, which should also make it better. These are also at the more premium end of the Jabra line. So these also have Dolby Atmos with spatial audio and all of that. So that's a really cool feature that I know you get with like AirPods Pro, but probably not the regular AirPods. You don't know.
I think that's correct. No, I think that's correct.
Yeah. And then, of course, battery life continues to get better. Even with active noise cancellation turned on, the Elite 10s will get 6 hours per charge before you slap them back in the case. And the Elite 8 actives get 8 hours per charge. The main difference between the Elite 10 and the Elite 8 active, the Elite 10 has some even more advanced spatial audio stuff going on. And but the Elite 8 actives, because they're designed for people who are working out and things like that, they are more waterproof than the Elite 10 actives. But you still shouldn't swim in them. Don't do that. So these are not cheap. Like I said, these are at the premium end of headphones, and these are both $30 more expensive than the original model that they are replacing. So the Elite 10 will be $280 and the Elite 8 Active will be $230 when they launch on June 24th. I wish they were available right now. I would very much consider buying some because I'm about to get on an airplane, and it would be nice to have some better ANC for an airplane and to try out that really cool case for watching a movie on the plane.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think these prices are bad at all. I mean, I think they're aligned with where they'd be expected to land. So
yeah. They're not bad. I mean, the AirPods Pro are $250, I believe. I think the regular AirPods are $200 or maybe less than that. But these are definitely more in line with the AirPods Pro. So, yeah, the Elite 8 Active is a little bit less expensive than the Pro, and the Elite 10 is a little bit more expensive than the AirPods Pro. So, all right. I'm excited about these. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to get some.
Very cool.
All right, let's move on to gaming news. This is normally the time of year where we would be talking about all of the news coming out of E3, but E3 is gone and forever dead. So, but that doesn't mean that there isn't news, because Jeff Keighley, the man behind the Video Game Awards, he has Summer Game Fest. PlayStation still, like, they recently did a State of Play event of their own, and Xbox still did their Sunday afternoon huge presentation, also just like they would normally do the week of E3. So the Xbox Games Showcase was this past Sunday, and it was an interesting one. It was what a lot of people feel like is one of the best ones that they've ever had. And I would mostly agree, as long as you're really talking about it just from the perspective of games, which makes sense. Like, it's there to announce games. And there were a lot of them. I'm not going to go through and talk about all of the games. For those of you who are interested in all of that, like, I've got a link to an article here in the show notes. So head on over to thedigitalmediazone.com and check out our show notes. Take it straight to an article that gives you everything about every game that was shown off. And there's a lot of really good ones. What I want to talk about is really what all of that actually means, because for the last, well, quite a few years, fans of console games have been saying the reason that PlayStation is doing better than Xbox is they just have more games on them. They have more exclusives. They especially have a huge vault of like really good single player games to experience, and Xbox just doesn't have the same quantity or quality as PlayStation. That's debatable, of course. Maybe not so much on the quantity side, though. And so over the last few years, Xbox has been buying tons and tons and tons of game studios, including, of course, the big Activision Blizzard King acquisition that finally completed last fall. And it feels like it's finally starting to pay off. Like, that's why I think this year's Xbox Game Showcase was as good as it was, because they had such a huge quantity of games that are now Xbox Game Studios games to show off. Many of them falling into the really immersive single player experience type genres, action games, things like that. And any of them that are from Xbox Game Studios, they're all going to launch day one on Game Pass, which Sony still doesn't have something that really directly competes with that. So while lots of the games that were announced this week are not coming out this year, many of them were listed as 2025. Some of them didn't even have a year listed, but a lot of really good stuff coming. Some things that we expected, some things that we didn't, and were brand new things. And it just really finally felt like, okay, we're finally going to have a large catalog of first-party games available on this console. And this was really the time that Xbox needed it, because so much of the news that we've been reporting on about Xbox over the last 6 months, really anything outside of the Activision Blizzard King acquisition, has been kind of negative, like all of the layoffs and studio closures. Finally, something to celebrate here. So tons of great games to go and check out. So go and check those out. And I'm really excited about a bunch of them. But there was also hardware that was a little bit interesting, but also not as interesting as I had hoped. So they did actually announce 3 new Xbox consoles, a new all-digital Series X. So by all-digital, that means it does not have the Blu-ray drive in it, and it's white instead of black, and it has 1 terabyte of storage. So it is just a white version of the Xbox Series X that we've had since it launched in late 2024. but without a Blu-ray drive. And so that is $50 cheaper at $449. They also announced a Series S with 1 terabyte of storage that comes in white for $350. They had recently rolled out a black Series S with 1 terabyte of storage, so this is just a new color option for that one. And then,
but it's robot white, Josh.
Right, you're
it's
right.
Robot white.
I like that you pointed out that it's robot white. Yes, even I can't tell you the official names of these colors without looking them up. And I've bought I haven't bought a Series S. The more interesting and more special edition that they announced is the Galaxy Black Series X. And this is not just black. It's called Galaxy Black because it has stars all over it.
It's full of stars.
It's full of stars.
Yeah. But is it stars? They're green. I don't remember stars being
they're like
green.
Gray and white and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think, frankly, it's pretty cool looking. And it has green accents on the base and on the base of the controller as well. I think it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And it also has twice the storage. It has 2 terabytes of storage in it. So that's really nice to have. Oh, and the controller that comes with it also has the same crazy design. You're going to pay for it, though. It is $599, so it's $100 more than the typical Series X because you're getting double the storage. It's also supposed to be more of a limited edition sort of thing, so this might actually be kind of hard to get your hands on. So when these come out sometime this holiday season, if you want that Galaxy Black one, well, you're going to have to hurry up and buy it. You're going to have to beat Richard to Best Buy.
Yeah, I'm not buying one. I mean, it's cool, but
right.
I don't need it.
Yes, you figured out a few years ago that it doesn't make that much sense for you to still be buying these things.
Right.
Yeah. The reason why I'm a little bit disappointed by the hardware news is there were all sorts of rumors that they would be announcing their own portable device, similar to a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch, but that plays Xbox games. And for good reason, this was rumored. Basically, Phil Spencer has been saying left and right, all over the place, that he would love a portable Xbox. He friggin' runs Xbox. You can't keep saying that and then not give us one. That's not fair. So, but despite the fact that it's not fair, he didn't give us one. Interestingly, in an interview that Phil Spencer did with IGN later that day, they asked him, hypothetically, if you were going to release a portable Xbox, what kind of device would it be? Would it be like a Steam Deck or a Switch where you load the games on it and you can play them offline, on an airplane, whatever? Or would it be more like the PlayStation Portal, which just allows you to stream games from the cloud or from your Xbox on the network? And he said, oh no, if we were going to do something like this, you would be able to play the games directly on the device, which is what everybody wants.
Right.
So do we think it's going to get announced later this year?
I'm not the right person to ask this. I have no skin in this game. No,
you don't. And I'm really excited about the idea of this, but I don't think I would actually buy one. I don't think it actually makes sense for me, other than the fact that I'm traveling a little bit more for work and I would use it then. But in my house, there's not really much reason for me to have a portable device. The very few times that I play my Switch, it's docked and hooked up to my 65-inch OLED, because why wouldn't I want to play games on my 65-inch TV instead of a 7-inch screen? So, I don't know. I'm really curious. I would like to see what they would do, but I don't know that I would buy one unless I really start traveling a ton, which I kind of hope I don't. But if I do, there was another device that was announced recently that could also be interesting. So Computex also happened last week, and at Computex, which is primarily a PC show where all of the PC manufacturers are out there showing off their new laptops and computer monitors and everything related to computer hardware. Well, a few manufacturers also showed off their latest portable Windows gaming devices similar to Steam Decks and ROG allies like we talked about last week. And the one that was the most interesting by far was one from Zotac, and it's just called the Zone. Zotac is maybe a lesser known brand, but they've been around for a while. They've been making GPUs and standalone computers and all of that for a long time. Like it over 10 years for sure. Like I remember seeing Zotac devices in the mid 2000s. So this is not some brand new fly by night company. And they are releasing their own portable gaming device that is very similar, probably the most similar to the Steam Deck OLED than any other Windows-based device that has been announced or released so far. So this one would be the only Windows portable to have dual trackpads on it, a trackpad on each side to give you mouse-like input, like the Steam Deck. It also has Hall effect thumbsticks. You've heard me talk about how great of an idea these types of thumbsticks are many times because they use magnets and they don't eventually suffer from stick drift. So that's what makes those so nice. What I don't like about them is that they are laid out like a PlayStation controller instead of like an Xbox controller. So I think that's going to be a little less comfortable, but they have less room when they're trying to cram in those trackpads also. The thumbsticks also at the base of the thumbstick, they are surrounded by circular scroll wheels, which you can configure for things like volume or scrolling. Those could be really cool. And then, of course, the other really nice thing about this is the screen. It does have a 7-inch OLED screen. I believe this is the first Windows portable to have an OLED screen. It is 7 inches. I think that makes it a little bit smaller than some of the other devices out there. It makes it way smaller than the LG Legion Go, I think is the name of it. But it is a 7-inch 120 hertz OLED with 800 nits of brightness. It uses the same Ryzen 8840U processor that most of these devices are using. It does have 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM. And then another really useful addition to this device is it has a full-length M.2 SSD in it. So if the included 512 gig storage device isn't big enough for you, well, it's not hard to go and find a replacement device because it is a standard sized M.2 SSD drive. So that's cool. It also has a front-facing camera on it, which is useful, I guess, if you want to be live streaming yourself, but it's also more practical in that it is a Windows Hello camera, so you can use it to authenticate yourself with your face. And it has a kickstand for when you're docking it or just not holding it. So that's nice too. How much is this going to cost? When can you get your hands on it? Well, we don't actually know either of those two very important details, other than the fact that it is supposed to come out in the second half of this year. So it does sound like a very, very intriguing Steam Deck competitor from a reliable manufacturer. So we'll keep an eye out for actual pricing information on that when it comes out later this year.
Yeah, we've been talking about Zotac devices for years, and still I remember that they made some great little boxes that were good as media centers.
Yep. Yeah, they've been making mini PCs for a really long time. So makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. All right, that's it for our news this week. So Richard, let's get into what's been going on in our entertainment centers.
Yeah, so not a ton. I was traveling last week, and so that inhibited some of my viewing, not all, as I'll discuss in a bit, but been keeping up with Ghosts season 3, the US version of that, which is still very funny and enjoying that. Watched the Amazing Race finale. I really, really, really enjoyed this season of The Amazing Race. Basically, most of the annoying teams got weeded out pretty quickly. And so near the end, most of the teams that were there felt like they were deserving to be there. And the team that won had something like 5 or 6 first place runs, and were like second place every other time except one. So they absolutely deserved winning this year, which was fantastic. Saw the Discovery season and series finale. So that was fine. I think I mentioned that Discovery has kind of veered a little bit from where it started, and it was really good when it started, and then it got kind of strange, and then it kept getting strange. And so I stuck through it, and I enjoyed this season mostly, but I don't think it was anywhere near as good as, for example, the last season of Picard or any season of the newer shows. So I'm well, I'm looking forward to the new season of Lower Decks and the new season of I can't even remember the name of the other one that I like to watch. So this is done now. It's fine. It's fine. A lot of time spent saying goodbye. Just so much goodbye time. It was crazy. It was like watching all the endings of the last Lord of the Rings movie, where it just kept ending and ending and ending. Anyway, had still been watching Doctor Who, and I have gotten back to The Punisher, almost finished season 1 on that. Really enjoying that. I think they did a really good job with that. And I'm sorry I didn't watch it earlier, because it turned out to be a great series. And then while I was away, friends I was staying with were binging an old, like 15, 18-year-old series, I think from, I don't even know. I don't think it's AMC.
I think it was USA.
Yeah, probably USA or TNT or something. Yeah, probably USA. Called Burn Notice. And I had no idea what it was about. None at all. And it's actually really fun. I just watched, they rewatched the pilot so that I could get an idea of what the show is like. And I might end up picking it up because it was really fun. It's basically a spy that's been burnt. And so he's just trying to make it doing other odd jobs now. And it's so far very entertaining. And then, as I have in the past said, I have been watching a whole lot of YouTube videos about 3D printing and continuing to listen to Rachel Maddow's book prequel. I have not finished that, but I did listen through a lot more of that. So that's it for me. How about you, Josh?
All right. Well, on the gaming side, I got to participate in the closed beta for a game coming out called 33 Immortals. This will be launching on Xbox Game Pass whenever it does launch, which I think is supposed to be this year. It feels like it should be soon, because there were a couple of pretty big bugs, but I figure they can fix them quickly, and the rest was a pretty polished experience. This is a cool game. This is a roguelike game, which means that you are diving into dungeons and hacking and slashing and upgrading your skills. And when you die, you start over. And it's typically randomized levels and stuff. But when you die, you get to keep some of the stuff that you leveled up. And so you're eventually kind of slowly building up your character. That's not new. What's new about this game is that you play this with 32 other people. And that's why it's called 33 Immortals. So you don't really have to worry about partying up with lots of people. You just load in and there's lots of other people going, and you all know what the point is. So you all just start working together. And it's like, it sounds like it would be chaos, but it actually works really, really well. And I've never been huge on roguelikes. Even some of the ones that got really popular over the last few years, like Hades. I had so much fun with this, though, and I cannot wait for this to actually launch. The biggest problem that I have with it is, so this game is Like the hook is you're playing with 32 other people, right? And you can party up. Like you can join a party with your friends. But your individual party can only be 3 people. What? It ought to be bigger. Like I can understand why maybe it can't be 33, but you've all heard me say many times that there are 3 other guys that I regularly play games with. So we are looking for games that support parties of 4. And that's not this one. So I hope that lots of other people submit that feedback and they change this to make the party size at least 4, because I want to play a bunch of 33 Immortals whenever this game finally launches.
Is there a reason that it's like, if it were 4, would that cause any sort of problem that it's not something that can divide it evenly into 33?
Perhaps. Like, I think that would be a really good reason. The other reason that I can think of for the math of that is there are like little mini dungeon areas that you're all running around in, and each of those dungeons can only have 6 people in them at a time. So if the parties are 3, then it could be 2 full parties.
Right.
But I don't care. Give me a party of 4. Make the math work somehow. So that's been great. And that's kind of been it in terms of at least interesting other things that I've been doing in terms of gaming. I haven't watched any movies lately. And the only the only TV I've been watching is hockey. Stanley Cup finals are going on. If you're not a hockey fan and you're like, seriously, they're still playing, all of us hockey fans are feeling the same way. And the schedule's even worse for the Stanley Cup finals. If this goes 7 games, Richard, they're not going to be handing out the Stanley Cup, the trophy for ice hockey, until June 24th. That's ridiculous. They need to do a better job with the scheduling. It's so dumb.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. I don't think I mentioned on the show that last weekend I was up in British Columbia visiting some friends of mine in Victoria, and you could literally hear people like yelling in their homes at the television from the street as we were walking to dinner on Saturday night. It was pretty entertaining.
I love that. I love that. So the other thing that I do want to give an update on is we have been using the on Google TV Pro, whatever the heck the super long name is. Yeah. So it's been really reliable. I've not noticed any sort of performance problems. It's working great. The kids are not having any problems using it. It's, the experience is not all that different than the NVIDIA Shield that we've been using for many, many years prior to this. The remote has been interesting. So it has its pros and it has its cons. So you can indeed program it so that the volume buttons control your TV volume, the power button can control your TV power, and the star button that's at the top right corner, you can program to be the input switch button on your TV. And they all work. However, there are options for how you can make them work. They can work using HDMI CEC, or they can work with infrared. And by default, it's like, well, of course you want to use HDMI CEC, right? Yes, of course, because I don't want to have to like point at the TV all the time. Infrared is like from the 80s. Like I don't want to do that. It's not working. Like the HDMI CEC based control with my LG OLED just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, which seems crazy to me. Like it's not some crappy cheapo TV. Like it feels like it ought to be, and it's not even like some random brand, it's not like some Westinghouse TV or something. It's LG.
Yeah, that seems really suspicious. Have you tried using your LG TV remote to control general navigation of the on box?
I haven't, but I don't want to use the LG remote.
I totally understand. I'm just curious. That might help you troubleshoot that. If it's working in one direction, why wouldn't it be working in the other? Unless Google's sending out the wrong command stuff, but that just seems bonkers because this is not their first device that they've put their stuff on.
Right. So the IR controls work, but I kind of discovered that one night, reconfigured it to just be IR. And the next morning, my daughter was like, the volume buttons aren't working. And so I grab it and I point it at the TV and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's working.
You have to point it at the TV like an animal.
Right. And she's like, but a lot of times I'm sitting on the couch with a blanket and I have the remote under the blanket. Sorry, kid.
Wait, don't.
Right. So outside of the HDMI CEC issues that I'm having, it's been a really good device. I can't complain about it at all, especially for the price.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to try it yet at all. Have you been using the assistant on the speaker device at all?
I don't know that we've used it at all, actually. We should, like, at the very least for turning the living room lights on and off, but we haven't really.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how well that works. Like, could you even use it to turn on the TV or to search for stuff on the device and stuff like that?
Yeah. In theory, you're supposed to be able to do that. So I guess I'll have to give that a try. Although it might not turn on since HDMI CEC isn't working and it doesn't have an IR blaster.
Yeah.
But it could probably control. No, it wouldn't control the volume either. Well, if I ever get CEC working, then maybe we'll try those things. But it ought to at least be able to search for shows and things like that. So yeah. And then on the book side, I think I mentioned last time that I had started reading the third book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. It's A Court of Wings and Ruin. I'm done with the book. Again, like book 2, it was way better than the first book. It's fine. I'm just not an epic fantasy reader. I know my wife loves these books. I just don't. They're good, but they're just not really for me. If you love epic fantasy stuff, check it out. Like, there's definitely a lot of good things going on with this story, but I'm just not a fantasy guy.
So you done with this now?
I don't know. And they're so long. Like, the audiobook was like 22 hours long. And
oh, come on. There's so much good stuff out there. Why waste your time?
Right.
You can talk about something else over dinner.
Exactly. So that is it for what's been going on in my entertainment center. So that's pretty much it for the show also. So if you'd like to get a hold of us, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. If you're watching on YouTube, right after you've clicked that subscribe button, leave us some comments on the show. We're also I'm on Twitter at Josh Pollard. So is the website at Digimedia Zone. Richard is over on Mastodon at Richard Gunther. And you should also just head on over to the website, www.thedigitalmediazone.com. You can leave comments there and find all of our contact information in case you're driving right now and weren't able to look that information up. Richard, you also have another podcast you work on. What's going on with Home On?
I know. I keep teasing this. I am actually working on editing the episode that I recorded with Allison. So the episode with Allison Sheridan I'm hoping getting it out this week, should be out this week. So I started working on the show notes tonight and the edit's in progress.
Hold him to it, folks. He's Richard Gunther on Mastodon.
Fair enough.
And we did the show live again. We're trying to get, as much as possible to do the show live on our Twitch channel. Again, links to that over in the website. We typically are back to doing Tuesday nights around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But I can tell you right now, we will not be around for the next 2 weeks because of work and travel and other things like that. So we will see you in a couple of weeks because that's going to do it for episode 650. He's Richard Gunther and I'm Josh Pollard. Thanks for listening to Entertainment 2.0. Adios.
Goodbye.